What's up guys, Casey here, aka Knifecinema, and after quite some time I am back, and I'm not going to give you a 5-minute preach of why I have been absent. I'm just going to say I have been busy with my own personal life and school life as well. You know what, no one really cares about my life anyway. Anyways, today I'm going to show you how to create this really cool looking meteor, which means this really cool smoke trail, some cool looking optical flares, then impact, and it's pretty much how to create a meteor and how to composite it into your scene as well. So let's take a look at our example right here. And bam. So yeah, really cool looking effect. Let's take a look on what it looks like over here. So yeah, pretty much just a smoke trail, some shattered particles, and camera shake, and all that cool stuff. So first things first, you are going to create a new comp. Let me close all this stuff right here, and you're gonna import your clip. Now you wanna 3D motion track your clip. If you do not know how to 3D motion track a video, you can simply check out my 3D motion tracking tutorial in the description below. Excuse me. Thirsty. Anyways, it's nothing too hard, so you should be able to do it on your own without my explanation. If you do, however, need an explanation on how to do it, simply check out the YouTube tutorials. There is so many of them. And as I already said, you can check out my tutorial as well. So once you have done that, you have your camera and your video, and that's pretty much all you're gonna need. Now for the plugins you are going to need. We are going to be creating the smoke with a plugin called Trapcode Particular, which is a third-party paid plugin. So yeah, you should go check it out. Next up, we are going to be using optical flares for the, well, optical flares of course. You can use null light factory as well, but I prefer optical flares. And yeah, for the camera shake we are going to be using Twitch from Video Copilot. Alright, so let's jump right into this, shall we? First up, we are going to create a new light, which is going to be the emitter for our particles, and we are going to call it emitter as well. Next up is a null object, which is pretty much going to be the control layer for our, well, everything. You'll see in a while, in a bit. That's what I meant to say. God damn it, guys, get your shit together. Next up is a solid, just a plain simple black solid, which is going to be our optical flares layer. So optical flares, double click or drag and drop it on it to apply the plugin, and we can disable it for now. And last but not least, we are going to create another black solid, which is going to be the layer for our smoke. So, oh shit, simply search for particular. God damn it. Particular. There we go. So you can disable this one as well. So let's head over to our emitter. Press P for position. Press P for position on our control layer as well, and make sure it is 3D enabled. So now alt click on the stopwatch next to the position and simply drag and drop this little spiral thingy on the position of our control layer. Press enter, and there we go. Now you have successfully linked the control layer to the emitter layer. So now if I click on the control layer, where the hell is it? What the fuck, where's my control layer? Oh, yeah, of course. No, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. So now if I move the control layer, the light moves automatically with it. Next up we are, oh shit, I forgot to rename the layers. Let's rename this to optical. flares, and this one to smoke. There we go. So enable optical flares again. Let's head over to the motion blur. Okay. Render on transparent. And source type, you are going to check. You are going to choose drag lights. There we go. Now disable all these boxes. We don't need none of those. And you can close it again. Okay. You can disable it for now. We are not going to be working with it. And let's head over to the smoke layer. Let's head over to emitter. And at emitter type you are going to change it to lights. There we go. So we can disable it for now as well. First things first, you are going to create a meteor flying path with your control layer, because it's much easier to do in the beginning than in the end, when you have all your smoke nearly destroying your processor and stuff. So first things first, we are going to create a meteor flying / impact path, because it's much easier to do in the beginning. So I have already made or keyframed a position, or simply made a path already, so I'm simply going to use that, apply the stuff. And for those who are still to do it, what you are simply going to do is choose a high point in the sky, so I don't know, like 20,000 or something in the z-axis, and 10,000 or maybe 50,000, I don't know, just something really high up in the sky, and then simply keyframe it at the end on where you want the comet or the meteor to land. So yeah, simple position keyframing, yeah, nothing too hard. I believe you guys can manage that already. So now if you click on the keyframe of the position, you can see these lines with a little dot at the end. So what these do, simply curve out the path of the meteor, so we can mess around with them to get a nice little curve, and do what you like. I am satisfied with these settings already. Maybe I can move the meteor a little bit to the left, to the right I mean. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, by the way, if you hold shift while messing around with the position, it goes much faster. So just position it wherever you like. I'm gonna go with something like this. Alright, looks cool. And let's smooth out the curve. There we go. Drag the keyframe back to the beginning. Let's take a look. You know what? I'm gonna change the y-axis because it's not really visible. Alright, there we go. That looks much better. Bam. So, we can enable our optical flares again. Alright, autosave. Head over to the options and simply choose from some already present presets. So yeah, I have already made a preset myself, so I am simply going to use this one. And you want to change the color to something really warm, reddish, yellowish, what I really like. Make sure it's not too colorful, just choose something a little bit subtle. Something like this, so there is a mix of white in it, and maybe a little bit more reddish. Alright, that looks cool. You can crank up the scale a little bit, I don't know, to maybe 200. Okay, looks cool. Not too much in my opinion. 150 should be enough. Okay, now we can finally do the smoke. So enable our smoke layer. As you can see, there is already a trail of particles, but they are not really looking smoke-alike yet. So what you want to do is change the velocity to around 5 and all other velocities to 0. You don't need to mess around with the emitter size since we are already tracking a light. And that's pretty much all we are going to do with the emitter for now. And over to the particle. You can change the life of your particles if you wish. I am going to stay with the 3 seconds. God damn it, Casey, get your shit together. Because I think it's the best. So you can change the life of the particles, but I'm simply going to stick with the 3 seconds. And life randomness, yeah, I guess you can add a little bit of randomness, maybe 20%, I don't know. Next up, particle type, you are going to change it to sprite colorize. This will simply add the option of a texture, which is precisely what we are going to do right away. So open up Google and simply search for a cloud texture, so cloud PNG. Cloud, there you go. So now there's tons of already present textures you can choose from. So this one for instance, or maybe this one, I don't know. Just choose what you like, maybe this one or this one, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I have already chosen a texture myself. Where is it? Should be somewhere over here. Smoke cloud PNG, and you are going to create a new composition with it. So simply drag and drop it onto this composition button right over here. Okay, so once you have created your composition with the cloud texture in it, you can head back to the cinematic composition again and simply drag in the composition itself. Head over to the smoke layer again and go to texture layer and select the cloud layer of yours. Now you can disable the composition itself because we don't really need to see it, we just need it for the texture. Now Trapcode Particular may say that your texture size is too big, but you can simply click OK and it will still keep the original size of your texture, but I would still recommend to scaling down the composition itself, because it may help Particular render better. So once you have your comp, once you have created your texture comp, you can head back to the cinematic comp of yours. Oh shit, that was the wrong comp. There we go, and simply drag and drop it into your composition. You can disable it and head back to the smoke layer. And now go to particle, texture and layer and select the texture you have chosen already. There we go. So now as you can see, if I increase the size of the particles, you can see some little clouds start to appear. So let's go, you can keep the size at around 100. You can mess around with the size randomness if you wish. I'm gonna set it to around 50%, because why not? Opacity, you don't really need that much opacity, so change it to around 50%. Makes it look a little bit more natural. Now opacity over life, you're going to mess around with that later and change the opacity randomness to around 50% as well. So opacity over life, pretty much want to start somewhere over here, really high up, and then right before the beginning drastically drop. Let's see, yeah, something like this should be good enough. Okay, now let's head over to set color. You want to set it to overlife. Now go to color overlife, and this grid appears. You wanna select the last box or the last rectangle over here, and now 3 color sets appear. So the first one you wanna select something really warm, reddish, something that matches your flare. So you know, something like this. That's not too good. Maybe something darker. Alright, this looks cool enough. Now the second color, you wanna choose a really dark black smoke, and you wanna drag it really close. Oh shit! And you wanna drag it really close to the first color pin. Okay, and for the last color, you wanna set it to something like this, you know, something grayish, or maybe you can go in on something brown, some light gray brown, and drag it somewhere. God damn it! Somewhere in the middle. Okay, so let's adjust these settings a little bit. Let's take a look. Ah, I know what I forgot. Head over back to the emitter, and now head over to the particle, and select rotation, and random rotation to about 100. There we go, now it looks much more natural. Let's crank up the particles per second to see what it looks like. So as you can see, you get some really cool looking thick black smoke. Looks pretty cool in my opinion, but it's still too thick, too dense in my opinion as well. So let's head over back to the opacity randomness, and crank it up to about 100%. And let's crank this down to around 25. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, good enough. Let's enable the lens flare. And let's see what it looks like. Let's make a quick ramp preview. Okay, so looks pretty cool already, but we are not quite finished yet. So let's head over to the moment of the impact. So press U on the smoke layer to bring up the keyframes. Oh no, to the control layer to bring up the keyframes. And head over to the last keyframe. Now we head over to the smoke, and we are going to go to the emitter and keyframe the particles per second. So keyframe it, go a frame forward, and set it to 0. So once we hit the floor, there will be no particles emitting. Okay, so next up we are going to disable the lens flare. So head over to optical flares, keyframe the brightness, go 1 frame forward, crank it up to around, I don't know, 500 maybe, then go 5 or 6, maybe 7 frames forward, doesn't matter, just a few frames forward, and bring it down to a 0. So now we get some sort of light explosion. Bam. Maybe a little bit shorter. And we are going to do the same thing in the beginning, right when the comet or the meteor enters the atmosphere. So simply copy these keyframes and paste them over there, and adjust the last keyframe to 100. Here we go. You know what, that's a little bit too little for me. So let's keyframe the scale as well. Push U to bring up the keyframes, go a frame forward, and crank up the scale to 1500, I guess. Go a few frames forward and then keyframe it to 150 again. Bam. Next up we are going to add a new adjustment layer, simply by pressing Ctrl Alt Y, or we can add a new layer and new adjustment layer. Now you're gonna search for Twitch, and CC lens. There we go. So the CC lens, you wanna change the size to around 100. Keyframe it, go a frame back, and set it to 500. Now the Twitch, you wanna keyframe at around, I don't know, 30. Didn't mean to do that. See, push U, go a few frames forward, and then make it a 0 and make it a 500 at the CC lens. Right, let's head over to Twitch and let's see what we can enable. A little bit of blur, some light, maybe scale, slide, color as well. Pretty much everything but the time. So let's head over to operator controls, slide, and you wanna crank up the RGB split to around, I don't know, 10 maybe, or 15. Let's see. Okay, maybe crank up the speed to 30 as well. Ah, there we go. So now you get some twitching, some light explosions, pretty much, yeah, looks cool enough for me. And we are going to do the same thing at the moment of impact. There we go. So, bam. And you also want to keyframe the Twitch around, I don't know, 10 frames before the impact. Just make a keyframe and set it to 0. Go a frame forward. Oh, it is already keyframed, so you don't need to keyframe it again. So we pretty much just get some twitching and then bam. Start to twitch and then bam. Okay, so next up you are going to download the green screen video I have posted, or I have linked in the description below. Now it is a simple smoke meteor with some particles around it, and we want it just for the particles. So we are going to mask out the rest. Now head over to right where the impact happens, press B on your keyboard, then go a few seconds forward. When the video ends, press N, and then right click on the work area and select Trim Comp to work area. Next you want to search for Key Light 1.2, apply the effect, and simply select the screen color. There we go. Now we have masked out or selected out all the green in the video, and we only have a interlaced so now we have selected out all the green color from the video, and we have just smoke and the particles left. So you can, no, you know what, I'm gonna keep it at a black background. So you wanna head over to screen mat and select Screen Shrink and Grow, and wanna change it to approximately -2 pixels. Let's take a look. It looks decent to me. Next up, we are going to mask out all the smoke, because we only want the impact particles. So head over to the pen tool and simply mask it out like that. There we go. Now press M. Excuse me. Now press M on your keyboard and select inverted. Now we have inverted the mask. You can adjust it a little bit. Also keyframe the mask path and press F to bring up the mask feather. And I'll change it to around 15 pixels, should be enough. Okay, so next up we are going to keyframe the mask itself. So move a few frames forward. Let me drag it down a little bit. Drag this to the side so there is no smoke visible. Just like that. Maybe drag this down a little bit more. Alright, there we go. Okay, so next up you are going to drag in your particles into your composition. Simply drag it to the moment of the impact. There we go. And as you can see, it doesn't really match the colors of your environment, so we're gonna have to do some color corrections. So apply some curves and some levels. And as you can see, my theme or my cinematic is all around really dark, so I'm going to drag down the white colors or the white levels in the levels plugin or in the level effect. Next up we are going to head over to the curves and just create some contrast, make it a little bit darker and drag this a little bit up. Head over to the red color, crank this up a little bit, just a little bit. Maybe add some greens, some green tones. Alright, looks good enough for me. Maybe some blue tones. Alright, looks good enough for me. Let's go this way. Okay, so next up you are going to enable the 3D mode for your layer. You can turn off the sound and you simply go over to your control layer, select the last keyframe of your position, Ctrl C and Ctrl V. Press U on your keyboard and you can disable the keyframe because we only need the position itself. So as you can see, I have dragged the scene a little bit weird, so it's all turned around and yeah, it's all around weird, so I will have to adjust that. Give me a second. So turn it around, add some Z rotation, there we go. Press S for scale. Where is it? Scale it up a little bit, excuse me. That's a little bit too much. Alright, looks good enough for me. But as you can see, it's all black, and that's because as a 3D object it's accepting light from our emitter. So to disable it, simply press AA, so AA, and go to accept lights and turn it off. There we go. So now it is tracked and it's not accepting any lights, so let's take a look on what it looks like. Let's simply scrub through here. So just some particles flying around, it's 3D tracked, nothing too special, but gives it a nice little look. Nice catastrophic look. And you wanna drag it beneath your smoke layer. so the smoke is actually on top. Let's take a look. You know, let's scale it down a little bit actually, but not this one. This one. Scale it up, drag it down, drag it to the side. Okay, so all in all, we are pretty much done. I have shown you the basic technique. God damn it, how do you even pronounce the word? So I have shown you a basic way of creating a meteor. The rest is up to you. If you wish, you can add some more sound effects. Oh yeah, the sound effects. Oh, I completely forgot those. I will be putting some sound effects for you to download in the description below as well. So let's take a look. What do we have here? Yeah, the business bus drop. If you do not know this one, then you are lucky. It's probably the most overused sound effect in the editing community. So drag it over to the moment of impact. Duplicate the layer. Then head over to the top layer. Go to time and time reverse layer. Now, if you press double L, so LL, you can see the sound waves of your sound effect. As you can see, it's gonna do a little build up and then bam. Okay, if you press L, you can bring up the loudness or the noisiness of the sound. I don't really know the noun of the word. And you're gonna crank it down to around -5 because the business bus drop is really loud. Next up we have Sick Noise MP3. I don't even know what that is. So let me take a look real quick. There we go, sound effects. Okay. So, another really cool sound effect. Let's simply drag it in. Press LL to see the sound waves. Okay. Another thing you can do, let me trim this real quick. Another thing you can do is go to time, enable time remapping, go over here, keyframe it, go over here, keyframe it again, and drag this out. Because as you can see, the build-up sound of this sound effect is really short, so I wanna stretch it out a little bit. Okay, next up, you are going to drag in. Wait, let me check real quick. Right, cinematic impact. Where is it? There it is. So, let's take a look on what the sound looks like. Right. So let's drag it somewhere over here to the very beginning. Right when the whoosh happens, just drag it over there. Now you want to duplicate the layer, and again, time reverse it. Press LL and drag it somewhere over here. That should do it. Okay. Okay, so we are pretty much done. Let's make a preview really quick and see what it looks like. Oh god. Right. Let me adjust the Twitch really quick. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, we have still some adjustments to make. For instance, the first part is too short in my opinion. Should be a little bit longer, so we can actually see the comet entering the atmosphere. And the build up should be a little bit longer as well. So there we go. Starts shaking and stuff. Let's change it to 20. We don't want it to get too shaky, just a little bit of shake, you know. Bam. Okay, we also need to drag the impact particles down a little bit. There we go. Because it looked really weird. Now it looks nice. But all in all, I believe that is the end of this tutorial. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, make sure to leave me a question or simply write me a private message. I will answer it for sure, because I know this tutorial was a little bit complicated. But anyways, I would like to also apologize for my absence and my English, because I haven't been talking English in quite a while, so I know I have a thick accent. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in a next tutorial. Peace.